Well, the win totals for each team have been projected as over under like 11 and a half, 8.5, so all those. But who do I have going? What teams do I have going over that span? And what teams do I have going under?
Let's talk football.
Alrighty, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Round Sports Podcast, where sports are everything on this channel. I am your host, Antonio. Today, we are predicting each NFL team's total win and loss total over and under, as many teams have been predicted already. So I thought I would do my prediction on the teams. So before we get started into this video, if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to do me a big favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Also, this is before the draft, so it might change, it might not, because it's like a little piece of gel. It can bounce around a lot. So let's get this thing started. So here's how it's gonna work. I'm gonna go from the highest win total of the team to the lowest win total team. So starting us off with the first team is the Buffalo Bills. Now the Bills, we already know the opponents have been released, but I'll get to that in a second. Bills, they have gotten Joey Bosa, who is still relatively decent when he is healthy. They got Joshua Palmer. They went out there and got Laviska Shenault, former Seattle Seahawk return man. Re-signed Ty Johnson, re-signed Damar Hamlin and Dane Jackson, also along with extending Josh Allen to the most guaranteed money in the NFL, and also along with extending Khalil Shakir and also Terrell Bernard. But I am looking at their schedule, their opponents. I think it's relatively easy. The only ones I would be concerned about if I am Buffalo is the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, Bucks, and possibly the Patriots. Possibly. But I'm looking at this schedule. I do believe they might win against Kansas City because they have their number in the regular season, but just not when it comes to the postseason for some weird reason.
Suffering succotash! What a present!
But I am going to go with the over here. I do believe that the Bills have a very favorable schedule, and I do believe that they are the team to beat in the AFC East, and they are superior over the Miami Dolphins every single time. So I'm having the Buffalo Bills go over 11 and a half. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles at also 11 and a half. The Eagles. I am looking at some of their moves. I love the signing of Aziz Ojulari, also bringing in Joshua Uchi, also bringing in AJ Dillon to pair up behind Saquon Barkley. Also, they re-signed Zach Bond. Also, traded away Kenny Pickett to the Browns, getting DTR in return. They extended Lane Jack Johnson as well. They did trade Jarius Slay and CJ Gardner Johnson. So I do have some concerns about those two because they were such key pieces. But I'm looking at their Eagles schedule. They have a very difficult schedule next season. They not only have to face interior division opponents, that the only team that could threaten them is the Commanders. They also have to face the NFC North and also along with the AFC West, including the Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, and also along with the Buffalo Bills. Also along with facing against Tampa Bay, Los Angeles that they pounded in the divisional round, and then also along with teams like the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and the Detroit Lions. So I'm looking at the schedule. The only losses I can pretty much see are to the Lions, the Vikings possibly, the Packers possibly, the Commanders once, and maybe the Chiefs or Bills. But I'm looking at that schedule. I am going to go with the over because I believe that the Eagles are still the top team as the defending Super Bowl champions. I do believe that they are going to be a very good team next year, trying to defend their title. So I believe that I'm gonna take the over 11 and a half for Philly. Next up is the defending AFC champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. Kind of weird not to say defending Super Bowl champions. Kind of weird to say that. But they made some really decent moves. They got Elijah Moore from the 49ers. I believe that is a steal. Also, they brought in, re signed Nick Bolton, Marquise Hollywood Brown. Also brought back Kareem Hunt, Juju Smith Schuster, and then also brought in a few offensive linemen. I look at the Chiefs' schedule, they have a relatively difficult schedule. They got their in division rivals that are not as easy of a cakewalk anymore. They also have the Houston Texans. They got the AFC South, the NFC East, or NFC least if you're the Giants and the Cowboys. And then you also got the Bills, Ravens, and Lions. I'm looking at this schedule. They're a favorite at 11.5. I'm looking at some of these games. The Broncos are a really good team this upcoming year. I do believe the Broncos are going to be really good next year. Chargers still got some questions on them. The Raiders, I do believe they're going to be competitive with Geno Smith. The Ravens, I do believe Lamar is going to try to want to beat the Chiefs after what happened with that last season when they only lost by a toe. I'm looking at the Texans. They're going to want revenge for those two controversial calls. The Bills, they're going to want revenge for the AFC Championship game, and they always have your number in the regular season, just not in the postseason. Then I look at the Lions that beat you in your house a few years ago. I am actually going to go with the under here. I after what I saw from the Chiefs in that Super Bowl against Philadelphia, I am thinking about this Chiefs team a lot differently now. Because I look at the Chiefs, they are vulnerable, not just in their division, but in the entire AFC. The Broncos are right now the biggest threat to them inside of their division. The other threat outside of their division is either the Texans, the Bills, or the Ravens, and also the Bengals as well. So I'm going to go with the under 11.5 for Kansas City. Next up, on the last 11.5 before we get to the 10.5 is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, I do like some of their moves. I really do. And DeAndre Hopkins being one of them. Even though he's a veteran wide receiver, I still believe he's one of the better receivers in the NFL right now. I do like him pairing up with Zay Flowers. And then you also brought in a competent backup in Cooper Rush. But I look at the schedule for the Ravens. They have a relatively difficult schedule ahead, especially inside of the division. But I look at the outside of the division, they have to face against the AFC East and also along with the NFC North, which include, and then also outside teams, including the Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm looking, and then also along with Houston. I'm looking at that schedule. The Ravens always dominate in the regular season. They're always a good team in the regular season. It's just when they hit the postseason, that's when they crumble, kind of like the AFC version of the Cowboys. But I am going to go with the over because the Ravens, they always find ways to win in the regular season, but they just can't find ways to do it in the postseason. So I'm going to go with the Ravens with the over 11.5. Next up is our first 10.5 team, one of two, the Detroit Lions. The Lions, they recently went out there and signed DJ Reed, one of the best corners in free agency, also along with re-signing Tim Patrick, Derek Barnes, also along with Marcus Davenport, Dan Skipper. And then they also released Darius Smith, which was a very questionable move in my opinion. But we look at their schedule, they have a relatively easy type of schedule coming up. They don't only have to face against the AFC, NFC East, but they also have to face against the NFC, the AFC North as well. So I'm looking at that total. I believe the Lions are not going to miss a beat after last season, even though they just lost a few of their offensive and defensive coordinators. I look at their schedule, and I really think they can take the over here. And I'm going to go with the over here because I look at their schedule. They got a very favorable schedule. The AFC North is going to be a challenge because that division is always competitive unless you're the Cleveland Browns. But I look at the NFC East or the NFC East if you count the Giants and the Cowboys. I do believe that they can go over, which is why I have the Lions going over 10 and a half. Next up, man, my goodness, why is this team so high every year? The San Francisco 49ers, after releasing half of their roster, my goodness, I don't even know why this team's ranked this high. But the Niners, the two notable signings they made was to sign backup quarterback bag of chips, Mac Jones, also along with Demarcus Robinson. Also bringing in a few other pieces that are big no-name guys. Luke Farrell, I don't even know who that is, which they dramatically overpaid him. But I look at the Niners, they got a somewhat difficult schedule. They got a fourth place schedule, of course. They got the NFC North, NFC South to deal with, also along with the AFC South. Also along with the Bears, Giants, and the Browns. But even though they're listed at 10 and a half, I am going to take the under. Because let me tell you why. The 49ers, they let go of six of their guys on the defensive side of the ball. Key roles. So I'm looking at the defensive losses on their defensive side. I'm looking at Taliu Funga, Drake Greenlaw, Ward, Hargrave, Collins, and Floyd not being there anymore. I am very concerned about the way this defense is going to play. And I mean, they got no big name that standout receivers on their squad. Brandon Ayuk, probably not going to be the same after that injury. Ricky Pearsall, need to see more from him. Jawan Jennings, right now the best receiver on their squad, the true number one right now. Then they also got Christian McCaffrey, that's probably not going to be the same player again. George Kittle, who is solid, but he's not Travis Kelsey. He is not Travis Kelsey, and nor Tyler Higbee. I know that much, and not even close to Noah Fant as well. But I'm looking at the Niners. I just do not trust in their team. I like the offense, no question, but it's got to depend on health. It has to depend on health. If they're fully 100% healthy, I can see them getting 10 wins. But I don't because they can never stay healthy. And they're just a choke waiting to happen. They are just a bad team. They're just an accident waiting to happen. That's what they are. They're an accident waiting to happen. And it will happen sooner or later, which is why I have the under here for the San Francisco 49ers. Next up, you got the first of the Los Angeles teams at the 9.5. You got the Chargers. The Chargers, they recently signed offensive lineman Mekhi Becton, also bringing in Dante Jackson, Najee Harris, Mike Williams, Tyler Conklin, also along with bringing in a few other guys as well, Andre James as a center. They re-signed Khalil Mack. They brought back Tyler Heineke. And I'm looking at their schedule that they have. I am actually very confident in this schedule. They not only have to face against the NFC East, they have to face against the AFC South, which the only team in that division right now that is a really big threat is the Texans. But then they also have to face the Dolphins, the Vikings, and also along with the Steelers. I'm looking at the schedule. They're projected as a 9.5 team. I believe Jim Harbaugh is going to help them get the over because Jim Harbaugh is one of the better head coaches in the NFL. He was wrongly let go by the Niners a long time ago by Jed York, who is still the owner to this day. I believe that Jim Harbaugh is going to help this team progress in the future. I love some of their moves. I would not be surprised if they went wide receiver in the first round. and I would also not be surprised if they win tight end. But I believe that the Chargers are going to be a better team next year. I do believe that they could make a playoff berth. If they can get past the playoff round, is yet to be seen. But I have the Chargers getting over 9.5. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams as 9.5. The Rams, they were busy in free agency getting Devontae Adams while also letting go of Cooper Kupp to Seattle.
This isn't over, Prime.
But we'll touch on that later. They also restructured Matthew Stafford's deal, keeping him in LA. Also, along with re-signing Akilla Witherspoon, Tutu Atwell, but also bringing in Puna Ford as well. When I'm looking at the schedule, their schedule is somewhat easy. They got their in-division rivals, of course. They got the NFC South and AFC South to deal with. They also have to face against the Detroit Lions, Baltimore Ravens, and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm looking at the defense. They had 450-yard rushes allowed on them against Philly. So that's just 1 L right there. I am looking at this win. I do believe they are going to get 9 wins. So at least 9 to 10 wins. But I am going to shock a lot of people. I'm going to go with the under. Let me tell you why. The offense, I believe they're going to take a step back this year because Cooper Kupp was the Matt Stafford's go-to guy, and now Devontae Adams is in there, who's still a good receiver, no doubt about that. But he's just not Cooper Kupp, not a Super Bowl champion. But I look at their schedule. I believe they could have some trouble with their division, primarily Seattle or Arizona. San Francisco could be is still a question mark, as I mentioned earlier. But Seattle's defense is going to get better next year, and also their offensive side, which I'll touch on Seattle later. But I believe the Rams are going to hope maybe go under, but I'm going to go with under here for the Rams. Next up, one of the biggest surprises from last season, the Washington Commanders, sitting at 9.5. The Commanders, they have been busy in free agency. They re-signed a few key players, including guys such as Jeremy McNichols, KJ Osborne, brought back Noah Brown, and also Zach Ertz, and also Mr. Reliable backup Marcus Mariota, and also bringing back Bobby Wagner, trading for Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil, bringing in also along with Michael Gallup. They also brought in Javon Kinlaw. But I look at their schedule, they got a very good schedule ahead of them. They have to face not only against their division, but they also have to face against the NFC North and the AFC West, with outside teams such as the Seahawks, Falcons, and the Dolphins. That Seahawks Commanders game is going to be very fascinating. I'm thinking that is going to be a very fascinating football game because that I believe is going to be really good, and I believe the matchups against these two teams have been really close in the past. So I'm hoping that's going to be the same again. But I am going to go with the over for the Commanders because I'm looking at the division. The Giants and Cowboys ain't going anywhere anytime soon. I just don't trust their entire division except for Philly. I do believe they have a chance to win their division just because there's not been a repeat champion since who knows when. But I'm going to go with the over for the Washington Commanders. Next up on the list is the Houston Texans. The Texans have been quite busy in free agency, bringing in Cam Ward, Sheldon Rankins, two former Seahawk players, including Darrell Taylor and Laken Tomlinson, bringing in EJ Speed, also along with signing Justin Watson, also trading for Ed Ingram, CJ Gardner Johnson, and Christian Kirk. But when we look at their schedule, it is actually relatively easy. They have to face against the NFC West, which has some better teams than others. I'm looking at you, San Francisco. Then I'm also looking at their AFC West. They also have to face teams in there. They have to face the Buffalo Bills, the Ravens, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I'm looking at the schedule. They're 9.5 win total. I am gonna go with the over here because the Texans, CJ Stroud is going to be a lot better this year. I do believe the offensive line will help him in that circumstance. I do believe that CJ Stroud is right now better than other quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm looking at Brock Purdy. But when I look at the Texans, they have a winning mentality, which is why I have them going over in the 9.5. The next 9.5 team is the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have been very busy in free agency as they recently got to Leo Funga, Drake Greenlaw, Evan Ingram, Trent Sherfield, and also bringing in, re-signing a few guys, include DJ Jones and Jared Stidham. But they have a lot of good stuff in the draft coming up. But I'm looking at their schedule. They got a relatively easy schedule, if you ask me, because they not only have to face their division rivals, they got to face against the AFC South and the NFC East. And then also outside teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, the Green Bay Packers, and the New York Jets. And I'm looking at that defense. That defense is going to be really freaking scary next year. I'm loving what the defense is going to do there. And I'm looking at the offense of Bo Nix. I saw it since when I saw him in Auburn. I was like, hey, maybe this brother can do something in the NFL. But that was before he became a top 10 pick. But I'm going to go with the over. I really like Denver this year. I was questioning him last year because of the whole pick, because Bo Nix was in Auburn and then transferred to Oregon. I got full faith in this man this time. I got full faith that Bo Nix can lead them to a playoff game and possibly, maybe, even a division title, which is why I have them going over 9.5. Next up, the next 9.5 team, three of two, three remaining. That is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have been somewhat quiet in this year's free agency. They've recently got a new guard from the 49ers, Aaron Banks. They signed Nate Hobbs from the Raiders. Also brought in McCall Hardman under a 1-year deal. Also re-signed Brandon McManus, their kicker. Re-signed Isaiah McDuffie, and also brought in Christian Welk. But the Packers, I'm looking at their schedule. They got somewhat of a difficult schedule. They not only have to face against the NFC East, which the only two teams that could threaten them are the Philadelphia Eagles and also the Washington Commanders. But they also have to get to face against the AFC North, which is the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns. But they also have to face a few teams on the outside in the Cleveland Browns, Denver Broncos, and the Carolina Panthers. I'm looking at the schedule. I do believe they can get over 9 wins because they got a really good team around them. Jordan Love, when Toyota-thon comes, he can always be there for Mr. Reliable. He is a really good quarterback. I still believe that they're going to assess a receiver position in the draft. I believe they may assess that in the second round so that they can get another corner to replace Jair Alexander. But that's why I have the Packers going over 9.5. Next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the second to last team in the 9.5 rank, and then we'll get to the 8.5. The Bucks have been very busy. They got Hassan Reddick, signed Sterling Shepard, also along with re-signing two key pieces, including Levante David and Chris Godwin, who the Bucks always pound on the Saints when they get a good chance to.
You will not escape my might. Wait. You two are up to something.
But I'm looking at their schedule. They have a really good schedule coming up. They not only have to face against the entire AFC East, but they also have to face against the NFC West, primarily Seattle and the Rams. Possibly the Cardinals, but I'm not so sold on them. But they also have to face a few outside teams, such as I'm trying to find it. I believe the New York. I'm trying to see which ones are on the outside. Philadelphia Eagles, um, Detroit Lions, and the Houston Texans. So I believe with that schedule, Baker Mayfield has always been able to get them to the playoffs for the 2 years he's been in Tampa. I believe he'll get there again and go over 9.5 wins. I do believe they can go 10-7 because they are right now the biggest threat in the entire division. Falcons, there's still some questions to be seen around them, but I have the Bucks going over 9.5. The last team of the 9.5 is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals re-signed to Mike Gesicki, also along with re-signing Cody Ford, their linebacker, one of their linemen. Also re-signing, extending Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to 4-year deals, but they also still need to assess that defensive side. But I'm looking at their schedule. Their schedule is somewhat easy, but somewhat difficult also in the process. They have to face against the AFC East with the Patriots and Bills possibly being the two big teams. Also along with the NFC North, which have a lot of good teams this year. Also, along with a few outside teams such as the Jags, the Cards, and also the Denver Broncos. But I I really am appreciative. I really like Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow, I believe the defense was the only thing holding them back last year. So if Joe Burrow can do to put up the same numbers that he did last year and still and have a better defense, I do believe they can take the over here because I believe Joe Burrow is still the man in Cincinnati. He's got to make the playoffs this year, and he knows it, or else he's going to want out of Cincinnati. So I'm going to go with the over here for the Bengals. Next up on the list is the Miami Dolphins, the first 8.5 team of the list. So the Miami Dolphins have recently signed Terrell Johnson, Nick Westbrook, Kene, Willie Gay, KJ Britt, Noah Farrell Brown, Artie Burns, Alexander Madison. They also re-signed D. Eskridge and also Quinton Bell, but also recently Teron Armstead, I believe is his name, recently retired. So that offensive line is not going to be that good next year. Well, I'm looking at their schedule. The schedule is very, very difficult. They have not only their in-division rivals with the Bills tend to sweep them every single year. Buffalo superior, Dolphins inferior, and the Patriots might be a problem this year for Tua. Also, they have to face the AFC North, also along with the NFC South. But they have to face a few outside teams, including the Colts, Commanders, and the Chargers. But I'm looking at the Dolphins. I don't trust Tua on the road. And if I'm looking at some of these games, if they face Charlotte late in the season, it's going to be cold there. It's going to be rainy. I'm looking at the only two games that are in domes. I'm looking at Indianapolis and Atlanta. Those two, I believe they can win. But Pittsburgh and Cleveland on the road, that is going to be a very tall task because they are not going to beat those two teams. It's because Tua can't play in the cold. When it's 40 degrees or lower, Tua is 0 and 12. So I believe I'm going to take the under here for 8.5. Just because of the road games have me a bit concerned. The only two that I believe they can win are Atlanta and Indianapolis because they're both dome stadiums. I don't trust the Miami Dolphins on the road, especially if it is a cold climate up there, which is why I have them going under 8.5. Next up is the Chicago Bears. The Bears, they recently made a lot of good moves, including trading for two offensive linemen in Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney, also bringing in Grady Jarrett and Drew Dillman, and also along with releasing a few other guys, including Travis, including, well, they released a lot of guys, but they retained some of those guys. Well, I'm looking at the schedule. They have a very fairly difficult schedule. Not only their division rivals, but they have to face against the NFC East with the primarily notable the Eagles and the Commanders, also along with the other teams on the outside like the Saints, the 49ers, and the Raiders. I'm looking at the schedule. I do believe they could get over 8 wins because they have a better offensive lineman than they had last year. Because the offensive line was killing Caleb Williams. And I'm looking at their offensive line. I do believe they'll go after more edge rushers in the draft. I would love to see John Lon Walker there in Chicago. But I really am. I'm taking the over here for Chicago because the Bears. I do like their team, but I am cautiously optimistic. But I have the Bears going over 8.5. Next up, the team that can apparently never beat Seattle as far as the recent 7 games, the Arizona Cardinals.
Alright, Dad, get him! Go get him! Okay, now you got him right. Oh, man, they're really I'm loving this.
At 8.5. The Cardinals, they made some good moves, signing Josh Sweat, Akeem Davis Gather, also along with Devin Tomlinson, bringing in backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett, also along with re-signing Baron Browning, Zay Flowers, LJ Cooler, and then also along with others. But the Cardinals, they got a fairly difficult schedule ahead. They have to face against AFC South, NFC and NFC South, with the outside teams that they have to face being the Packers, the Bengals, and the Cowboys. But I'm looking at the schedule. I'm cautiously optimistic because I do like Arizona. I'm not taking any knock against them when they face Seattle. It's just I don't trust them when it comes to facing Seattle because the Seahawks, for some weird reason, have had their number the last few times.
You are a toy!
But when I look at the Cardinals, the only thing I think is holding them back is Kyler Murray. And I am actually gonna take the over here. I'm actually taking the over. I recently did the under for the recent 2 division rivals just because I'm not sold on those two. But the Cardinals, they are giving me vibes of a Detroit Lions team that we saw before they turned into what they were, which are Super Bowl contenders. Now, I'm not saying the Cardinals are going to be a Super Bowl contender or whatnot. I really like their offensive team around them. I really do. Just the defense, I love the move for Josh Sweat. I do believe they'll assess that more in the draft. But I'm going to be nice to the Cards and say over 8.5. Next up on the list is my dark horse from last year, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikes recently made some good moves as they recently got Will Fries, Jonathan Allen, Isaiah Rogers, Javon Hargrave, Jeff Okuda, and also got Rondale Moore, while also trading for Jordan Mason, which I believe was a steal in my mind. Also, along with re signing Byron Murphy, Harrison Smith, and also Aaron Jones. Well, I'm looking at the Vikes schedule here. They have a somewhat difficult schedule. They have to face against the AFC East, with the two notable being the Eagles and the Commanders. The AFC North, which they got to face the Steelers, Bengals, and Ravens. Also on the outside are the Falcons going against Kirk Cousins' former team again. Also going against the Chargers and also going against Seattle, which was a thriller last year in that Week 16 play when that in that Week 16 game. But I am gonna take the over because so many people are disrespecting the Vikings. I had them as my dark horse last year. I said that they could be scary. I was not expecting them to go 14-3, but they exceeded my expectations, and I got that pick right on the dark horse. I do believe the Vikings are going to be better under JJ McCarthy because Kevin O'Connell's that offensive mind. He is one of the best offensive minds in the NFC. He is one of the better offensive mind coaches that we have seen. And I believe that Kevin O'Connell will help JJ McCarthy in year one under the helm, and I believe that they'll go over 8.5. Next up on the list is the black and gold incarnation of winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have been busy last year as of recent offseason training for former Seattle Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf. I'm still rocking his jersey. This is the only type of this jersey I got right now. But also, they went out there and got made a few other moves, including signing Darius Slay, bringing in Mason Rudolph, Kenneth Gainwell, Juan Thornhill. But I'm looking at the Steelers' schedule. They have somewhat of a difficult schedule. They have to face against AFC North, AFC East, and also along with the NFC North. A few other teams on the outside are the Chargers, Colts, and the Seattle Seahawks, which we'll see what happens in Seattle when DK returns to against Seattle.
I have come home, master. This is no longer your home, and I am no longer your master.
Of course, I'll be on the road in Pittsburgh. Well, I'm looking at them. They're 8.5. I am going to take the over just because it's Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, I've doubted this. I doubted this man last year. I'm going to say I believe that they're going to go over 500 this year. They may have offensive issues, but time and time again, Mike Tomlin always finds a way to get them over 500. Every single year, when they're expected to be last place or in not make the playoffs and have a losing season, they somehow do that. They somehow make the playoffs and have a winning season. It's who Mike Tomlin is, which is why I have them going over 8.5. Next up is my team at 7.5, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks have been busy this offseason, trading away DK Metcalf, as I mentioned earlier, also along with trading away Geno Smith, both of them for big high picks, which makes them have 5 picks in the first 100 picks. Also, along with getting a few good pieces, as they re-signed Ernest Jones, which was a big need. Also, along with bringing in Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Sam Darnold. But I'm looking at their schedule. They have a very favorable schedule. They have a very favorable schedule that I believe they can get over 500 because they have the not only their division, they have the AFC South and NFC South. The only teams in those divisions I believe are going to threaten the Seahawks are the Texans and the Bucks. On the outside, other than them, is the Vikings, Commanders, and Steelers. But I wanted to bring this stat up to Seattle fans and also other fans around the NFL. The Seahawks, well, two of them. The Seahawks are the only team in the NFL right now not to have lose 5 games in a row since 2006. The longest streak in that spans a half a decade and half in the same season. Also, there has only been one instance that Seattle has had 10 losses or more in the Schneider era, and that was when Russell Wilson was in his last year. So I'm looking at Seattle. They have the underdog mentality, and what I mean by that is everybody can doubt them, but they are going to find ways to win ball games. It may be ugly, but they're going to find ways. So I am going to take the over because Seattle, everybody has doubted them for years. They have doubted them since Russ left. And each of those years, they've been over 500. They've only had 1 year that they've had a 10 loss season or more under John Schneider, and that was when Russell Wilson was about to head out the front door. So I'm looking at the Seahawks. Cooper Kupp is an outstanding receiver still. I still believe he's got a lot on the table. He was the Rams' go-to guy. I believe he's going to be a really good player. Sam Darnold, I'm still have questions about him. I would have personally taken Justin Fields ahead of Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold, if he gets an offensive lineman behind him next year, if he gets the offensive lineman behind him, the defense can do their part. I can see the Seattle Seahawks going over 7.5 because of their favorable schedule. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have been slightly busy, slightly more aggressive. They went out there and got Kavondre Turpin and Oza Digizua re-signed. They traded for Kenneth Murray. Also got Khalil Elm. Also got 2 running backs, Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Also brought in Solomon Thomas and also along with Jake Sanborn. But the Cowboys, their schedule next season is not that easy. They have to really be all in if they're going to win these games. They not only have to face Arizona, the Chargers, and the Jets, but they also have to face the NFC North and the AFC West. So I'm looking at the schedules. I am not sold on the Cowboys with this type of schedule. So I'm gonna go with the under because I don't trust the Cowboys in this situation. Dak Prescott is gonna have a hard time against some of those defenses, especially Kansas City. That is gonna be a very hard game for them. They might get posted 70 on them. But the Cowboys, I have going under 7.5. Next up is the New England Patriots, the former great dynasty. But the Patriots have been a little aggressive this year. They went out there and got Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, Morgan Moses. They also got out there and got two wide receivers, Mac Hollins from the Bills and Stephon Diggs. But the Patriots have been slightly going after recent Bills wide receivers. So the Patriots, they have a really slimly hard schedule next year. They have to face against the entire AFC North, which is the Steelers, Ravens, and the Bengals. They also have to face against the NFC South, which is the only notable one is the Bucks. But they also have to face the Raiders, the Titans, and the New York Football Giants outside of those teams. But the Patriots, I do believe they can go over 7.5 because the Patriots, I believe, are going to be a dark horse next year. I believe they can be a really sneaky team. If we saw Drake May put up the numbers he did against some of the good teams in the NFL last year that and transforms into this year, with Matt Collins and Stephon Diggs being his number one and two receiver, I am actually gonna believe that the Patriots could be a playoff team next year, which is why I have them going over 7.5. Next up is the biggest disappointment from last year, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, they've been aggressive in free agency, going out there and getting Leonard Floyd, also along with getting Jamal Agnew, bringing back a few of their guys, also bringing in Morgan Fox. But the Falcons, they've had a lot of trouble with their division. And I'm looking at their division, their schedule. It is not easy, and I am going to pull this up on the screen. But I just don't trust the Atlanta Falcons with this schedule. I really believe Michael Penix could eventually turn into that guy, but I'm going to go under 7.5 because they just don't seem that good. I love the offensive weapons they got, but they just can't find ways to win. They always try to remain competitive with the Bucks. They did sweep them, but again, they have not been able to win the division because they're getting in their own way.
Buckle up, guys. This is gonna take a while. All right, never mind.
Look at last year. They swept them and they still lost the division. So I need to see more of Atlanta in order for me to buy into the Falcons. So that's why I'm going under 7.5. Next up is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval. Kind of like what Liam Cohen said. And so I just wanted to say that because it was kind of funny when he said it, on the way he said it. But, anyways, back to realistic here. The Jaguars were not that busy in the offseason. They did get De'Ami Brown from the Commanders, brought in backup quarterback Nick Mullins, also bringing in two tight ends, Johnny Manette, also along with Hunter Long, but released Trevor Evan Ingram, Devin Duvernay, Ronald Darby, and Christian Kirk. But I am looking at their schedule. This is the most difficult schedule I see. They have a lot of hard games. They got to face primarily against the Chiefs, the Rams, the Broncos. I mean, I am looking at the schedule. This is very difficult for the Jags. And I I have been defending Trevor Lawrence for a while, but I can't defend him because this guy has to perform. And I am going to go under here. I just don't trust the Jags right now. I really don't. I had them for stupidly, I believe, winning the division last year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I just do not trust this team. I just don't. Let me go back to my prediction I had. I believe I had them winning the division. I think. Well, I think I had the Texans. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong on that. But I just don't trust this team. I just don't trust the Jags. And I'm gonna go under here of 7.5. Next up is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, they recently went out there and got a few corners, including Corey Ballantyne, Jarvarius Ward, and Cam Bynum. Also, along with bringing in backup quarterback Daniel Jones to contend for Anthony Richardson's starting job. Also signed Khalil Herbert and brought back Ashton Doolin. But the Colts, their schedule is as hard as the Jags. I just do not trust them against this schedule. And in very similar fashion, the only outside teams that they'll have to face off against is the Steelers, Dolphins, and Falcons. Still, that is extremely difficult. And if Anthony Richardson was what he was last year, I just don't trust Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. So I'm going to go with the under here. I just do not trust either of these teams, and I just need to see it to believe it. To have the Colts going under 7.5. Next up on the list is the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders at 6.5. We're now moving to the 6.5, which there are three teams in this category, and then there's 5.5, 5.5. The Raiders have been selectively aggressive this offseason, trading for some former Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith, also along with bringing in Devin White, Raheem Mostert, Alex Kappa, Jeremy Chin, Eric Stokes. They brought in a lot of key guys, also re-signing a few of them, including extending Max Crosby to what was the highest paid player defensive end in the league before Myles Garrett took that over. But when I look at the Raiders, their schedule is somewhat difficult. They got to face not only their division, but they have to face the AFC South and also along with the NFC East, including outside teams like the Cleveland Browns, the Bears, and the Patriots. I am actually going to take the over here. I believe the Raiders are going to be a very good team next year, not like a 9-win team, but I do believe they can at least get 7 to 8 wins. Geno Smith has experience with Geno Smith. Pete Carroll has experience with him, so I believe that is going to get them by, and I do believe they can get 7 to 8 wins, which is why I have them going over. Next up is the New Orleans Saints at 6.5. The Saints have been aggressive this offseason, getting Justin Reed, Brandon Cooks, reuniting him with the Saints. Also, along with bringing in Isaac Yadam, also along with Jake Stoll. But the Saints, I do believe their schedule is somewhat difficult. Their schedule is somewhat difficult. They got to face against the AFC East. They also have to face against the NFC West, which includes the Seahawks and the Rams as the two biggest threats in that division. But outside of them, they got to face the Jets, the Titans, and the Bears. But Saints, I am going to hate to do this. I'm going to have to go the under here because I do like the stuff they're bringing around their first year coach. I just think that they're going to take 1 year to kind of reset, get themselves maybe in tanking position to go out there and get Arch Manning as their quarterback in the next year's draft because I do like Spencer Rattler. I do like him. I do believe if Shador Sanders drops that low, they might take him. So I have them going under on 6.5 wins. Next up is the Carolina Panthers, the last team of the 6.5, and then we move down to the last four. The Panthers recently went out there and got Bobby Brown, Rico Dowell, also along with bringing in Christian Roseboom, and also along with re-signing Mike Jackson, Andy Dalton, also along with David Moore, and also J.C. Horn. They released Miles Sanders, but they have a very, and I mean very difficult schedule. They not only have to face their division, they also have to face the NFC West and the AFC East with other teams like the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Jags to face on the outside. But you know what? I after what I saw from Bryce Young last year, I'm cautiously optimistic because the Panthers they went toe to toe with the two teams that were in the Super Bowl this past season. They lost by a field goal against Kansas City, and they barely lost on the road against the Eagles. I'm looking at that in this schedule. I am actually going to take the over because 6.5. I do believe they can get to 7 to 8 wins. I really like the Panthers, what they got around them. That defense, I believe they're going to assess the defensive side of the ball in the first round. Maybe go cornerback with Will Johnson if he is still available. But I believe the Panthers are going to be really competitive next year. After what I saw from them against Philly and also along with the Kansas City Chiefs, I am cautiously optimistic, which is why I have them going over 6.5. Next up is the Tennessee Titans. The Titans at 5.5. The Titans have been selectively aggressive. They did bring in two bad quarterbacks in Jim Boyle and Brandon Allen, but they also brought in Xavier Woods, Van Jefferson, also along with Cody Barton, and also along with former Seahawk Draymond Jones. I am looking at their schedule. If they do get Cam Ward, they could be a sneaky team. They really could be because they have a very difficult schedule, and of course, it's the same as the Colts and also along with the Jags. But they also have to face a few outside teams, including the Saints, the Patriots, and also along with the Cleveland Browns. I am actually going to take the over here. I do believe they can get 6 to 7 wins. Now, do I think they're going to be better than the Texans? No. Do I think they're going to be better than any other team in the AFC? Heck no. But if Cam Ward can turn into what Jaden Daniels was, he could lead this team to a sneaky record. And I believe they could go at least 7 and 10, but maybe a playoff berth and go 9 and 8. Which is why I have them go the Tennessee Titans going over. Next up is the New York Jets. The Jets brought in Justin Fields, Brandon Stevens, Andre Cisco, Josh Reynolds, also along with Stone Smart, also bringing in Tyler Johnson. This team, I believe, could be really sneaky. And if we look at their schedule's not that easy. They have to face against the AFC North, also along with the NFC South. They also have to face a few outside teams, including the Cowboys, the Denver Broncos, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I'm actually going to take the over on them as well. I do believe they can get at least 6 wins, maybe possibly 7. Justin Fields went his worst record with the Bears was 8 and 9, if I remember correctly. But Justin Fields can do really good things. This is a man that went 4-2 as a starter in Pittsburgh. 4-2. And if Justin Fields can help at least be a fraction of that in New York, a part of the Jets, they could possibly be a 6 or 7 win team and pull a few upsets in that process, which is why I have them going over. Next up, the second to last team, the New York Giants.
All hail the New York Giants!
The Giants, they've been a little aggressive this year, getting Roy Robertson Harris, Javon Holland, Stone Forsythe, also along with bringing in Russell Wilson and Jamison Williams. But the Giants, they have a somewhat reasonable schedule, but their schedule is very difficult. They got to face off against NFC North and also along with the AFC West, including outside teams like the 49ers, Saints, and the Patriots. I am actually going to take the over on them as well. I really do like what they got. And if they can go out there and get another weapon, like let's say a Travis Hunter, also along with a few other pieces, I really believe they could sneakily be a threat to the Cowboys for the third place spot. Because the Giants, I really like what they're doing around them. I really believe they can be a sneaky team. Their defense is really sneaky good. And I believe they can be a really good team next year as a 6 or 7 win team, which is why I have them going over. Next up is, and last but not least, is the Cleveland Browns. The Browns. Oh gosh, do we really need to talk about this team? The Browns re-signed Myles Garrett because he's not going anywhere. He wants to win a Super Bowl, but he's not going to do that there. They traded also for Kenny Pickett. Also got Jerome Baker, who spent some time with Seattle last year. Tevin Jenkins also brought in DeAndre Carter, but also got Matt Collins from the San Francisco 49ers. Like, I am going to have them going under because their schedule is so difficult. I cannot see them even eclipsing 5 wins. I just do not trust the Browns. I don't. Deshaun Watson, I just don't trust him because he has been so awful during his years in Cleveland. He has been awful. And I just do not trust the Cleveland Browns in this situation. And I believe they are going to go under in 2025. And that's the last team of the over and under in win total. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What team do you guys think can go over in wins, and what team do you think is going to go under? Let me know in the comments what y'all think down below. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to do me a favor and smash the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I'll catch you all in the next one. Ciao for now.